It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
West guys, West guys, West guys, West guys, West guys. These guys know sports. Yeah. These guys know sports. These guys know.
Welcome to Wise Guys. These guys know sports on this Monday, September 28th. Another day on the Wise Guys show with my co-host, Mr. Clarence Nixon. What's up, Mr. Nixon? How was your weekend, sir?
My weekend was a blast, man. I just enjoyed my time with the family. Nephew had a good birthday party. There was a lot of kids there yesterday, and we just had a blast. This weekend was fun. What about you, man?
It was definitely fun, man. Did you see my Green Bay Packers last night on Sunday Night Football? Aaron Rodgers making it look easy in the Big Easy. You see my man Allen Lazard. He balled out for my Packers, man. You know, he had a great day. Where Lazard had 6 receptions, 146 receiving yards, 1 touchdown. Hey, didn't look like we missed Devontae Adams a bit, did it? Didn't look like we missed Devontae Adams a bit, did it? But, man, overall, my Packers capped off my weekend, bro. My weekend was actually pretty good. My Packers capped it off with a great win last night on Sunday Night Football. You know, Aaron Rodgers versus Drew Brees. I love watching it, but overall, my weekend was pretty cool, man, for the most part. But real quick, before we get into our topics today, everybody remember going to follow Wise Guys on Twitter at WiseGuys_H. Also on Facebook, Wise Guys. And be sure to follow Wise Guys on Instagram at These Guys Know Sports. Listen, sports world. We know everyone's watching Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson on ESPN right now because it's going to be a showdown tonight in Baltimore between the Kansas City Chiefs, the reigning Super Bowl champs, and the Baltimore Ravens, the team that got the first seed in the AFC playoffs last year. So, Clarence, we got to be honest. We know everybody watching the game. Just stick in with us for a little bit, y'all. We're going to join y'all here in about 45 minutes. But make sure y'all check out Wise Guys later on tonight after the game because I know everybody watching the game. Let's just call it what it is.
Yeah. This is like you said, Trey, this is a great AFC showdown of two juggernaut teams. This is possibly a potential AFC championship game that as everyone watching them. But I always want to start off with the first question though, Trey, man. As you see these two juggernaut teams going head to head against each other, Patrick Mahomes versus Lamar Jackson. But tell me, what's the current better team between these two teams?
Current better team right now is the Baltimore Ravens. I think Baltimore is playing better right now than the Kansas City Chiefs, although I will give the Kansas City Chiefs some respect because they are the reigning Super Bowl champions, and until they are dethroned from the throne, they are the team to beat in the overall NFL. But right now, the team that's currently playing better is the Baltimore Ravens. We've seen the Baltimore Ravens put on a clinic in week 1 and completely dominated the Cleveland Browns. And Lamar Jackson, he got off to a great start, trying to win another NFL MVP, in week 1. And then we saw in week 2, the Baltimore Ravens completely dominate Deshaun Watson and the Houston Texans. And I feel real strong about Deshaun Watson, but the Baltimore Ravens really, really made it tough on Deshaun Watson in week 2. They created some turnovers, and they were the completely better team, over the Houston Texans. You can tell watching that game last week how the Baltimore Ravens are the more superior team right now over the Houston Texans. And I still think the Houston Texans actually have a shot at winning the AFC South, although they are 0-3 on the season, and the coach seemed to be in control of that division. But right now, I think the Baltimore Ravens are playing a little bit better than the Kansas City Chiefs overall. Kansas City in the first week, they beat Deshaun Watson in the Texans. But in week 2 against Justin Herbert and the Chargers, Clarence, the Chiefs struggled, especially that defense. That defense looked real suspect. Justin Herbert, he looked like the second coming to Phillip Rivers out there for the Chargers, man. So I felt like as I watched the Kansas City Chiefs, in week 2, we know what we're going to get from Patrick Mahomes and that offense. We know what we're going to get from Tyreek Hill, one of the best receivers in the NFL. We know what we're going to get from Travis Kelce, one of the best tight ends in the NFL. Honestly, in my opinion, he's top 2 along with George Kittle. But we didn't know what we were going to get from that defense, and that defense got exposed, in my opinion, by Justin Herbert. He made some plays last week, and I felt like the Chiefs for whatever reason, they just didn't bring their A game, and the Chargers brought their A game, and it was a competitive matchup. So overall, I think right now, judging these two teams off the first 2 weeks of the season, I would say Baltimore is playing much better football right now than the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, I agree. Just want to say something real quick before we go to the next question. I agree. I think they have like a strong rushing attack. They got like a three-headed monster in the backfield like that can pound the rock as many times they want. And I believe that Lamar Jackson is a strong, dedicated leader to this team. And what he brings to the table is something special and something that we ain't seen in a long time. But this Ravens team is just pure dominant on the offensive side and defensive side. But I did want to ask you this though, Trey. Who you believe has the better coach in this situation?
Well, these are two legendary coaches, Clarence. I want to start off with Andy Reid. We know Andy Reid, while he was the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, he led the Philadelphia Eagles to, I believe, like 5 straight NFC title games. Like, Andy Reid is one of the best coaches in NFL history, and he was the leader, of that Philadelphia Eagles franchise for many years, along with Donovan McNabb. He led that team, to the postseason, and they made a lot of noise. That one year, you remember, they got to the Super Bowl, but they lost against Tom Brady and the New England Patriots. That was the year where they had Terrell Owens. And Terrell Owens got injured that particular season, but he played in the Super Bowl and played very well, I might add. But overall, Andy Reid is one of the greatest coaches in NFL history, no doubt about it. And I was happy that he won his first Super Bowl last year with Patrick Mahomes, Clarence. When I looked at that entire team, I probably was the most excited for Andy Reid because Andy Reid deserved a Super Bowl championship on his resume. As great as a coach as he was, he did not have a Super Bowl resume to solidify his legacy, and he was able to get that last year with Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. So, I got a lot of respect for Andy Reid and the job that he's done since he's been, a head coach in the National Football League, and he's forgotten more football than I know. But I think in this situation, in this actual question, I'm going to take John Harbaugh, and here's why. I feel like John Harbaugh has never had the talent that Andy Reid had to coach. Like, I think Andy Reid had significantly more talented players than John Harbaugh has had. I think John Harbaugh, he won a Super Bowl, with Joe Flacco. And Joe Flacco is never to be confused with an all-time great quarterback. Now, has Joe Flacco played well in the playoffs? Of course he has. He's actually made a lot of clutch throws and clutch playoff moments. But Joe Flacco is not an elite quarterback because in the regular season, Joe Flacco turns the ball over a lot, and he's very, very inconsistent. And I felt like the fact that John Harbaugh was able to win a Super Bowl with Joe Flacco shows the kind of coach that he is. But defensively, we know the Ravens always have hung their hat on defense. They had Ray Lewis, one of the greatest linebackers in NFL history. They had Ed Reed, one of the greatest safeties in NFL history. So they always had a great defense. That's one thing we can always say about the Baltimore Ravens. If nothing else, they're going to have a solid defense, and they're going to create turnovers, and get the ball back for their offense so they can put points up on the board. But overall, John Harbaugh, he has a 120-74 career record in the regular season. So he's won 62% of his games. In the playoffs, he has a 10-7 record, which is 58% of his games that he's won. So I think John Harbaugh was a quality NFL head coach, and I'll give him a slight edge over Andy Reid. But I think these two are both great, legendary coaches in the NFL that we have today.
Yeah, I think these two legendary coaches are one of the best in the business. Then they bring like a strong foundation to their organization, to their respective organizations. And I love the way how John Harbaugh, he lets players be who they are, and he loves the way how they dominate the game of football, and he just brings so much like love and change all into that culture. And for Andy Reid, he just found his secret weapon in Patrick Mahomes because he basically realized like this kid was very talented and he brings a lot to his table, and the type of style he has is miraculous. But
yeah.
I want to ask you something.
The thing is, Andy Reid just always came up short in the postseason. He got to the NFC Championship game 5 times, Clarence. 5 times. I mean, this team always was in the championship picture. They just couldn't get over that hump. And the one year they did get over that hump, Tom Brady and the Patriots, were in their way. But that's the only issue I ever had with Andy Reid. He's always come up short in the postseason. For the most part, I always felt like John Harbaugh did a good job in the playoffs. I mean, I know last year they didn't get it done, against the Titans, but he's had his moments in the playoffs when he's coached the team pretty well. But they both are two great coaches.
But then, Andy Reid, I feel like his story was pretty special because he ended the Chiefs' playoff draft because they had a little streak. They haven't won a playoff game for like almost a decade, and he came in and broke that curse. Patrick Mahomes. Yeah. He set the new standard in Kansas City, and that's something that you really gotta mention when you talking about great coaches and stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Now as we watching this game live right now, who is going to be the X factor in this game?
You want to know something, Trey? I always thought this guy is like the big brother of the family. Like, I'm gonna jump in first. I'm gonna see how hot the water is. I think the X factor in this game is Mark Ingram because he's one of those type of players that okay, I'm gonna set the tone for the defense, and once I set the tone for the defense, that's when we got to start. You like POA, point of attack. Like, we have to find a point of attack in our run system because he is like one of the veterans on the team that have strong leadership role and that want to see the young bucks, excel through the seasons. I think when he set the tone on the run, it opens up their playbook. I think Mark Ingram is the X factor of this game.
Okay, I like that pick. I'm gonna roll with Clyde Edwards, the opposite running back for the Chiefs. I think he's the X factor because I think if the Chiefs can have some success running the football, it's going to open up the passing lanes for Patrick Mahomes to throw the ball down the field to Tyreek Hill, to Travis Kelce, to Hardman, So I think that's the key for me. It's going to be if the Chiefs can run the football effectively with Clyde Edwards. And we saw in the first week against the Houston Texans the impact that Clyde Edwards out of LSU can have on a team. He had a big impact in that week 1 matchup, Thursday night matchup, opening night, for the Kansas City Chiefs. So if Edwards can have a huge impact on the game tonight, I think it's going to go a long way in the Kansas City Chiefs stealing a win on the road against a hot Baltimore Ravens team, in Maryland tonight.
Yeah. And Mahomes is 2-0 versus Lamar Jackson. They won the first 2 meetings against Lamar Jackson. But believe it or not, Lamar Jackson is 4-0 in primetime games. And the Baltimore Ravens as a team, they're 9-5 under John Harbaugh as he's been coaching, though. So that's
and that's one more thing I want to say, Clarence, before we get to our predictions for tonight on who wins. Like, I want to say this about Lamar Jackson. I know, so far in his career, he has 46 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, over 48,000 passing yards, or 4,000. I'm sorry, over 4,000 passing yards in his career. He's completed 65% of his passes. Obviously, he's a reigning NFL MVP. But I think tonight, Lamar Jackson needs this win more so than Patrick Mahomes. And I'm going to explain why. Patrick Mahomes, he won an NFL MVP back in the 2018 season. He won the Super Bowl MVP last year, so he already has a Super Bowl on his resume. He obviously has a Super Bowl MVP on his resume. And we saw what he did last year, Clarence, in the postseason when the Kansas City Chiefs trailed in every game in the playoffs. Patrick Mahomes brought them back. We've seen him come back against the Texans and Deshaun Watson. We've seen him come back against Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry in the AFC Championship game. We saw him come back on the best defense in the NFL and the San Francisco 49ers in the Super Bowl. They trailed by 10 points entering the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl against the number 1 ranked defense in the NFL. And we saw Patrick Mahomes bring back the Kansas City Chiefs in that game. Patrick Mahomes is proven. Lamar Jackson is proven as well. But Lamar Jackson isn't proven against Patrick Mahomes. I think he's 0-2 in his career against Patrick Mahomes, and he's dominated everyone else. He's completely dominated the rest of the NFL, but for some reason, he hasn't beaten Patrick Mahomes just yet. And I think tonight, if it's going to be a high-scoring affair, Lamar Jackson is going to have to beat Patrick Mahomes, not only with his legs, but also with his arm. He has to be able to throw the ball down the field effectively for the Baltimore Ravens to have a chance at beating the Kansas City Chiefs tonight, because we know Patrick Mahomes and that Chiefs offense is going to put up points, Clarence. That's what we know. I think in order for the Ravens to have a chance to win tonight, they need their MVP quarterback to throw the ball down the field accurately and effectively for the Baltimore Ravens to win this game on Monday night in primetime. So I need Lamar Jackson to come through for the Baltimore Ravens tonight and show why he deserves to be in that conversation with Patrick Mahomes, with Aaron Rodgers, with Russell Wilson. We know he has the talent to do it because he proved it last year winning the NFL MVP. But I want to see him be a better passer in this game tonight.
So who wins tonight, Trey?
I think the Baltimore Ravens are going to win this football game tonight, Clarence. I got the Baltimore Ravens beating the Kansas City Chiefs tonight on Monday Night Football, 34-27. I think it's going to be a high-scoring affair. I believe in Lamar Jackson tonight. I think Patrick Mahomes is going to show up, and he's going to play elite football, and we know he's going to put up points on the board. But I also believe Lamar Jackson will do the exact same thing. And I also believe in the Baltimore Ravens defense more so than I believe in the Kansas City Chiefs defense, Clarence. So I think the Baltimore Ravens have the more complete team right now. So therefore, I'm picking them to win this Week 3 primetime matchup against the Kansas City Chiefs, the reigning Super Bowl champions. So I got Ravens 34, Chiefs 27.
See, I'm rolling with the Chiefs tonight. I think for Patrick Mahomes, like you mentioned, he had all those comebacks. That's something he can build off of, so he can be a better quarterback in the future. Once he get mentioned up, like once he's in that room with Brady and Breeze and Rodgers, for comeback plays, I think that this is the perfect game for him to show one of them comebacks if he get fall behind. But I got the Kansas City Chiefs winning this game in a big shootout, 49-42.
Okay. Let's move on. What's our next topic? You got our next one? What's our next one?
Oh, yeah. Now we're moving on to Sunday Night Football. Now, Sunday Night Football now, Trey, as you see, unfortunately, New Orleans Saints, they lost to the Green Bay Packers 37-30. Aaron Rodgers was 21-32, 283 passing yards with 3 touchdowns. Allen Lazard came out of nowhere with 6 catches, 146 yards with a touchdown. And on the Saints side, Drew Brees had 20. He was 26, even though he's 29 for 36, 288 yards with 3 touchdowns. And Alvin Kamara just had a busy day. 6 rushes, 58 yards, followed by 13 catches, 139 yards, and 2 receiving touchdowns. And now, Trey, this is the moment I know you've been waiting for all weekend. How impressed were you with the Packers in this primetime win?
Very impressed with my Green Bay Packers last night on Sunday Night Football, Clarence, because I told you coming into this matchup that we were going to see the 2 legendary quarterbacks. We got a chance to see Drew Brees versus Aaron Rodgers. This time it was in Drew Brees' house in New Orleans in the Big Easy. But, luckily for my Packers, there were no fans, in the stands. And that helped, actually, Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers offense because the Green Bay Packers got the New Orleans Saints to jump off sides a few times in this game. Yeah. And I think that was a huge factor, that played a major part in the Packers winning. Aaron Rodgers, he's great with that hard count because these players, they are trying to, rush the passer and they're trying to apply pressure on Aaron Rodgers. So they are, anticipating the snap count. And when you're anticipating the snap count, Aaron Rodgers can catch you from time to time. And when he catches you, he can burn you because it's a free play. It's a free play. And Aaron Rodgers, when it's a free play, Aaron Rodgers ain't trying to throw the ball 5 or 10 yards. He is launching the ball deep down the field, and he wants a big play out of it. So I think that was one of the things that I saw in this matchup. I saw the New Orleans Saints jump off sides a few times, and it gave Aaron Rodgers a chance to move the chains or make a play, off a free play and help the Packers offense. But overall, in this game, the Packers had a total of 369 total yards of offense. They had 271 yards through the offense, 98 rushing yards on the ground. Aaron Jones didn't have a great game last night, but he didn't have to, Clarence, because Aaron Rodgers showed why he is right now top 2 in MVP voting. Right now, it's Russell Wilson, and then it's Aaron Rodgers and everyone else. Aaron Rodgers so far this season is putting on a clinic. Last night, he went 21 of 32, threw for 283 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. And here's the thing about Aaron Rodgers. Right now, you can tell he is comfortable playing in this Matt LaFleur system. Him and Matt LaFleur actually have a better relationship in year 2 than they had in year 1. It is obvious, and I'm seeing it as I watch the team play. So far this season, Clarence, the Green Bay Packers have scored 122 total points. The last time the Packers scored anywhere close to that amount of points, they won the Super Bowl. That was in 1996. In 1996, under Brett Favre, in 3 games, the Packers had 115 points. That year, they went 13-3, and they won the Super Bowl. So I'm feeling pretty good about my Packers right now because things are trending in the right direction, and Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur are getting along all year long. Last year, remember we heard Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur are at odds. They don't get along. They're not seeing eye to eye. Guess what? Look at my Green Bay Packers now. Matt LaFleur is doing a hell of a job leading this Green Bay Packers team as a head coach, Clarence. I got to give him a ton of credit, too. I'm giving credit to Aaron Rodgers. I'm giving credit to Aaron Jones. I'm giving credit to Devontae Adams. It's time for me to give some credit to my head coach. Matt LaFleur, you're doing a hell of a job leading this Green Bay Packers franchise. And Matt LaFleur right now, Clarence, he has a 16-3 record so far as head coach of the Green Bay Packers. That is the best record over a 19-game stretch in Packer history. We've had some great coaches in Packer history. Vince Lombardi, Mike McCarthy. We've had plenty of great coaches. Matt LaFleur in 19 games has had the best record so far, in his young Packer coaching career. I got to give a lot of credit to the job he's doing. And also last night, Allen Lazard has emerged as our number 2 receiver. Last night, Allen Lazard, he had 6 receptions, 146 receiving yards, 1 touchdown, and he stepped up, in the absence of Devontae Adams. Like, I think that the Saints missed Michael Thomas more so than the Packers missed Devontae Adams. You know what I mean? So I liked what I saw last night from Allen Lazard, and MVS even had a great game as well.
Let me ask you this. Even though I know you probably don't care about this question, or care about these fans. After the Saints fall 1-2, should the Saints fans be concerned about their record?
Yes, I think the Saints should be concerned about their record because I believe Drew Brees' father time has caught up to him, Clarence. It has caught up to him. And I even watched that game last night, and I watched every single play from Aaron Rodgers and Drew Brees. If you would have switched the 2 quarterbacks out from each other, if you would have put Aaron Rodgers on the Saints and put Drew Brees on the Packers, I think the Saints would have won that game last night because Drew Brees, he just doesn't have that zip on the football that he used to have. Like I know he went 29 of 36. I think he completed like 81% of his passes. He had 288 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, but it just doesn't feel the same. And maybe they just missed Michael Thomas. That could be it. Maybe once Michael Thomas returns back from his high ankle sprain, maybe the Saints offense will get back into a rhythm and playing elite football like we know they're accustomed to doing. So far this season, Clarence, in these 2 games without Michael Thomas, they have struggled. But I think Saints fans should be concerned because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are in their division now, and they have Tom Brady, who is a legendary quarterback. And right now he has the Bucs at 2-1 on the season. And you remember the first week, the Saints and the Bucs played each other in New Orleans. New Orleans won that game. Both teams have went in completely opposite directions since that game. It was only 2 weeks ago. But I think Saints fans should be concerned because Drew Brees is not playing like we're accustomed to seeing him play. And I think that's something that we got to keep an eye on because we're only in week 4. It's only week 4. And I've seen throws that Brees has just missed, here and there. So I think Saints fans should be concerned for their legendary quarterback.
I think they should be concerned as well, only because Michael Thomas is out with this high ankle injury, and believe it or not, they miss him badly. Like, and I mentioned it before, like on the last show, which running back will have the more work to be done. And I was true, and I was right about Alvin Kamara because he was the leading catcher, leading yards, and leading touchdowns. And all leading stats, he led them in this game. And for them not having Michael Thomas is a big loss to them because they don't have no consistent pass catcher coming out, and you have to rely on your quarterback more, rely on your running back to be catching the passes that your receivers should be catching. So it should be very concerned about those.
And the thing is too, I think what it is, because Drew Brees doesn't have that zip on the football that he once did, and because he's not as accurate as he once was, I think the fact that he's dealing with receivers that he doesn't have, camaraderie with, like he doesn't really have no kind of relationship with them as far as throwing the ball with them consistently. He knows where Alvin Kamara is going to be. He knows where Michael Thomas is going to be. So I think they got receivers in here right now that Drew Brees isn't necessarily comfortable with throwing the ball to. So you add in the fact that he doesn't have that zip on the ball anymore, and then it's throwing off the timing. You see what I'm saying? It'd be one if Drew Brees was still throwing the football around like 3 or 4 years ago. This wouldn't be an issue because even if the timing is off, Drew Brees could still fit the football into those tight windows because he's older now and because he's at an older age. Those throws that he once made, he can't no longer make, and it can't make up the difference because they don't have that relationship and that chemistry on the field as far as receiver and quarterback goes. So that's the difference right now, I think, when it comes to the Saints overall.
Yeah, and I think for the Saints, though, once they find that consistent pass catcher, they'll be back to their old regular selves because the defense has been playing fine and they've been showing up. It's just for Drew Brees, he just got to find that constant pass catcher. If it have to be Alvin Kamara again, then so be it.
Yeah, and what changed this game too, Clarence? It was only one turnover in the game, and I think that turnover was the difference. What changed this game was the fumble by Taysom Hill. It wasn't even Drew Brees' fault. They brought in Taysom Hill, and I think they were, doing a little bit too much. I'm talking about Sean Payton and the Saints, and they brought in Taysom Hill trying to be a little bit too cute, and Taysom Hill fumbled the mesh with the running back, and Zadarius Smith jumped on the ball, and that was after the Saints had just stopped us on 4th down. So I was disappointed that we went for it on 4th down and didn't get it, and then the Saints fumbled the ball, and we got the ball back, and then I believe that's where Aaron Rodgers took advantage of the turnover, and that's why we ultimately won the game. But I think that mistake cost the Saints the game overall because Drew Brees, that one had nothing to do with Drew Brees. That was on Sean Payton and Taysom Hill. Sometimes, as great as Sean Payton is as a coach, sometimes as a coach, you can overthink things and get a little too cute. And I thought that's what happened with the Saints, on that turnover.
Yeah, definitely. So let me ask you this stuff. Which quarterback had the best performance on Sunday Night Football, Aaron Rodgers or Drew Brees?
Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers had a better performance because I just said it. If you switch the quarterbacks, I think the Saints would have won if they had Aaron Rodgers last night. And we would have lost if we had Drew Brees. You can tell the difference in Aaron Rodgers when he's flinging the football compared to when Drew Brees is flinging the football. Don't get me wrong, man. And I ain't got to disrespect Drew Brees. Drew Brees is an all-time great. Okay, Drew Brees is one of the greatest players we have in NFL history to ever play the quarterback position. He has the most career touchdown passes in NFL history. I got so much respect for Drew Brees and the job that he has done leading this New Orleans Saints franchise. And not only on the field, even off the field. I know he had the controversial comments, in the offseason, Clarence, but for the most part, Drew Brees has done a lot for that New Orleans community, and he's done a lot overall, as far as just helping the community and helping it get better. So Drew Brees has done great, as quarterback for the New Orleans Saints overall. So I got a lot of respect for him, but I got to call it how I see it. And I think so far this season, he's struggling to get the ball down the field like he once did. And I think that's affecting this New Orleans Saints offense at this particular time.
Yeah, this is for Drew Brees. I think Father Time is catching up to him very slowly, but if they don't turn it around on this upcoming game, I think that you will have to question the quarterback in this situation.
For sure. Let's move on, man. Let's talk about some NBA. Let's talk about the Eastern Conference Finals. As last night, the Miami Heat and Jimmy Butler punched their ticket to the 2020 NBA Finals after they beat Jason Tatum and the Boston Celtics 125-113. The Miami Heat win the series 4-2. For the Miami Heat, Bam Adebayo, Clarence, he balled out. He had 32 points, shot 11 of 15 from the floor, had 14 rebounds. Jimmy Butler had 22 points, 8 assists. For the Celtics, Jaylen Brown had 26 points, 8 rebounds. Tatum contributed 24 points, 11 assists. So, Clarence, what went wrong for the Celtics in Game 6?
I think what went wrong for Game 6, though, Trey, is the Celtics, they start taking bad shots, and they stopped playing. They stopped believing as a team. It hurted the team when they stopped playing like a team because one person wasn't doing something right, one was doing another. But when you take a lot of bad shots, it opens up for the new team to score off the fast break or do get quick shots. And I just think the Celtics, they wasn't synced in this matchup because for the simple fact they allowed a lot of three-point shooting on the they allowed 3-point shooting for the Miami Heat team, and every jump shot they took up, it turned into a fast break point. So I feel like they were just giving away points, and Miami just ran away with it. And Boston energy wasn't there. I truly believe they wasn't synced into this game, because the way how this game was turning out, the Miami Heat could have really, really blew out the Boston Celtics.
I disagree with you about that. I don't think the Miami Heat were going to blow out the Boston Celtics last night. It just wasn't going to happen. The Boston Celtics are too talented for that to happen. I think last night, this series, what happened last night was really a microcosm of this entire series, Clarence. I think the Boston Celtics are the more talented team, but I think the Miami Heat are the more hardworking team, and they wanted it more than the Boston Celtics. And I think you saw that even in Game 6. Last night, in the fourth quarter, the Celtics at one point went up 6 points, and it was about over 8-9 minutes left in the game. And I'm watching the game thinking because I'm switching back and forth from the Packers-Saints game to the Celtics and Heat game. And I'm thinking looks like Boston about to force a Game 7, and all the pressure is on Miami, because Miami, was up 3-1 in this series. And when you're the team that's up 3-1, you are supposed to be the favorite to close that series. And so after Boston got Game 5 on Friday night, I said, okay, all the pressure was going to be on Miami Sunday night in Game 6. And so once the Boston Celtics took the lead in the early part of the fourth quarter, I said, let's see what Miami got. What Miami got is a 6-0 run after Erik Spoelstra called a timeout, and the Miami Heat didn't look back since. I think they went on a 24-6 run at one point or something. They went crazy in the fourth quarter. They outscored the Boston Celtics 37-27 in the fourth quarter, and you could just tell the Boston Celtics, they could feel their season slipping away, because they came down, Clarence, on 4 or 5 straight possessions, and they shot three-point shot after three-point shot. And I'm like, get to the rim. Create opportunities for others. You don't always have to shoot jump shots. It's almost like they were trying to hit a home run, and they didn't take the single. Sometimes you got to take the single, take the double. You don't always need a home run. And I think that was the issue with the Boston Celtics. Once they got down, in the game, and they saw that Miami was on their run, they just completely went away with their offense, and they just shot three-pointers. I saw Marcus Smart hit a three-point shot. I saw Jaylen Brown shoot a three-point shot. Jason Tatum. I'm like, hey, guys, put the ball on the floor and get to the rim and create contact and try to get to the free throw line. You're giving the Miami Heat exactly what they want. They want you to shoot perimeter shots. That's what the zone, is supposed to make you do. It's supposed to make you shoot perimeter shots. And I think the Boston Celtics played right into Erik Spoelstra and the Miami Heat's game plan when they shot those perimeter shots once they seen Miami had fought back. But overall, man, I think the Boston Celtics are the more talented team, but I think the Miami Heat are the more hardworking team, and they just wanted it more. And I think they just executed better down the stretch in these games. None of these games really been blowouts. They all been close games. The Miami Heat, they're not a superior team than the Boston Celtics. I know they won. I know people might say, what are you talking about? What are you saying? I don't think they're a more superior team over the Boston Celtics like the Lakers are over the Nuggets. I just don't see that. I just think the Miami Heat know how to execute better down the stretch in these games than the Boston Celtics do. Jimmy Butler, Goran Dragic, Tyler Hero, and Bam Adebayo, who dominated this series, man. I can't say enough about the job that Bam Adebayo did. He completely dominated this series. He dominated his matchup with him and Daniel Tice. And honestly, Bam Adebayo, he looked like the second coming of Hakeem Olajuwon. Seriously, he was really balling in this series, man. He was playing, and that's another thing that Erik Spoelstra did. He put the ball in Bam's hands to create even for others, Clarence. Bam Adebayo was actually playing a point forward. He was actually creating for others. It wasn't Jimmy Butler. It wasn't Tyler Hero. It was Bam Adebayo. So Erik Spoelstra, I believe he outcoached Brad Stevens in this series, and he made the necessary adjustments in this series by implementing that zone. And I think that was the overall reason why the Boston Celtics came up short in this series. They never really had answers for the zone, and they settled for a lot of perimeter shots. And I think the Miami Heat, they just wanted it more, and you could tell down the stretch in these games, they executed better, especially offensively, than the Boston Celtics did. And that's the reason why the Boston Celtics are going to be watching the NBA Finals with the rest of us.
Yeah, and like you always say, they're not getting no sleep, man. They're not getting no sleep tonight. So I want to ask you this though. I want to ask you this. The Miami Heat, they having like a Cinderella season as well. They knocked off the number one seed, the Milwaukee Bucks. They swept the Indiana Pacers, and they beat the Boston Celtics in 6 games. Is it time to consider Jimmy Butler like a true superstar?
Is it time to consider Jimmy Butler a true superstar? I would say yes, because coming into this season, when we talked about the Eastern Conference, we talked about the Boston Celtics, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Kemba Walker. We talked about the Milwaukee Bucks, the Greek Freak, Chris Middleton, Mike Budenholzer. We talked about even the reigning NBA champions and the Toronto Raptors, Fred VanVleet. We talked about Kyle Lowry and, Siakam, if he can carry this team, in the Eastern Conference and possibly back to an NBA Finals. We talked about all those things in the Eastern Conference. But what we didn't talk about was the Miami Heat. And them bringing in Jimmy Butler, adding him to their franchise, I believe it was the difference, Clarence, in the Miami Heat getting to the NBA Finals, because we saw Jimmy Butler leave the Chicago Bulls. We saw him leave the Bulls and go to the Minnesota Timberwolves. He was with the Minnesota Timberwolves, but he didn't gel well with the Minnesota Timberwolves. He got into it a lot with Karl-Anthony Towns. He got into it a lot with with Andrew Wiggins, because Jimmy Butler is a hard worker. And if you're not working hard, he will call you out about why, and ask you, why are you not working hard? Why don't you want it as much as I want it? And that's the kind of player that he is. And if you remember, when he was in Minnesota, one of the main reasons why he wanted out of Minnesota was because he knew Karl-Anthony Towns and Wiggins had talent, but he also knew that they didn't want to work hard to win basketball games and compete for championships. They wanted, because, just because you're a star, that don't mean that you're actually trying to win a championship. You could be a star and just collect your money. You could be a star and just want the fame that comes with being a star. Just because you're a star don't mean your goals are to win an NBA championship. And I think Jimmy Butler knew the Minnesota Timberwolves warrants a championship organization. So he goes to Philly. Now he's with the Philadelphia 76ers with Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. And we know Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid are two of the most talented players we have in the NBA. But I believe Jimmy Butler didn't want to be a part of that dysfunction. It was dysfunction in Philly. We saw it this year. Like, that's the part of the reason why Brett Brown got fired. It was so much dysfunction in Philly. I don't think Jimmy Butler wanted to be a part of that. But I will say this. I think if Jimmy Butler would have stayed with the Philadelphia 76ers, I don't believe Brett Brown would have gotten fired. I think Brett Brown would have had his job to this day. And it's a possibility, just a possibility, that the Philadelphia 76ers could have been in the NBA Finals this year instead of it being the Miami Heat. So then he goes to South Beach, and he's with the Miami Heat, and we know that this is a championship organization. And it was a match made in heaven, Clarence, because I think this was the perfect marriage, Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat, because this is a hard-nosed organization with championship pedigree. That's part of the reason why LeBron James took his talents to South Beach, okay? When you're a part of that Miami Heat organization, yeah, you got the palm trees because you down there on Ocean Drive, and you got plenty of other activities that can distract you from basketball. But guess what? You have to work hard in order to be a part of that franchise. If you don't work hard when you're on the Miami Heat, Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra will get rid of you, okay? And I think Jimmy Butler embraced that Heat culture once he signed with the Miami Heat. And overall, so far in his career, he's averaged 17 points per game on 45% shooting from the floor. He's averaged 5 rebounds, 4 assists. He won an NBA Most Improved Player Award back in 2015. Jimmy Butler, man, when you look up his story, like he really come from nothing, and he had to work for everything that he's gotten. Like, everything that Jimmy Butler has accomplished, he had to work for it. And I think we need to start including Jimmy Butler in these superstar conversations. When we start talking about Giannis, when we start talking about Steph Curry, we start talking about James Harden, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Kevin Durant, we need to start including Jimmy Butler into that conversation, given the fact that he's led this Miami Heat team on a run that was very improbable. We didn't see this coming. And I think we got to give him a lot of credit for that. He is the best player on this team. And I think the fact that he's led this team to the NBA Finals speaks to the kind of player that he is. I think we should start including Jimmy Butler in that superstar conversation.
Yeah, I think Jimmy is the ultimate high competitor. He wants to win, and he wants to see his players get better around him. And I think that he is a superstar. He is a superstar that I would consider, because his spirit to win and his competitiveness that he want to work hard, I definitely consider him as a superstar trait because he has superstar traits that can build off another person to get better at. And I believe that Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo, and Tyler Hero, and Duncan Robinson are the key futures for this Miami Heat team. I think that's a core right there that you can build off and try to and compete for championships in the like future years. That's
Yeah,
like definitely. But
yeah,
I was
and go ahead, my bad. Go ahead.
oh nah, I was going. Nah, it's okay.
I was gonna say, I don't even think Jimmy Butler is a pure superstar based off talent. He's a superstar based off being a hard worker. Like you got to know the difference. Like Jimmy Butler is not as talented as Kevin Durant. Jimmy Butler is not as talented as James Harden. You know how James Harden can score the ball at will. Like Kevin Durant can score the ball at will. That's
Yeah,
not Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler is a superstar based on him being a hard worker and willing to do whatever it takes for his team to win. Like Jimmy Butler doesn't mind scoring only 6 points. If his team wins, it's okay with Jimmy Butler. He doesn't need to
yeah,
have 25 shot attempts in a particular game. He doesn't care. He's a very, very unselfish player. Like he's done a great job at, being able to know which teammate has it going. I think it was like game 4. In game 4, Tyler Hero, if you remember, he dropped 37 in game 4.
yeah. I remember that.
Jimmy Butler wasn't trying to take any of those touches away from Tyler Hero. He was letting Tyler Hero hit his shots because Tyler Hero was hot. And that's what they needed to win that game. Jimmy Butler, man, is a superstar because he's a hard worker and he sacrifices, his statistical numbers for the team's success. As long as the team's winning, he is okay. Like I said, I think we need to include him in that superstar conversation, not because of talent, but just because of how hard of a worker he is. Every team that he goes to gets better. When he went to the Philadelphia 76ers, they got better, and they got within one game of the Eastern Conference Finals. If it wasn't for Kawhi Leonard's game-winning shot last year, Clarence, it could have been the Sixers in the Eastern Conference Finals last year against Giannis and the Bucks.
Yeah, definitely. So
if Jimmy Butler was still on that team with the Sixers, I don't think Brett Brown would have gotten fired. Do you agree or disagree with that?
I don't think he would have got fired either, though. But he was one of the main reasons why Jimmy Butler actually left Philadelphia. I think if they would have worked it out, made it like you said, made it to the conference finals, I think Brett Brown's job wouldn't have been hot like than it was this season.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I think if they would have had Jimmy Butler, I think they could have won the Eastern Conference this year. I really could see it happening. But like I said, man, he's done a great job. And it's so crazy because I remember back when Jimmy Butler first came into the NBA, this is when Derrick Rose was balling out for the Chicago Bulls. Clarence, you remember Derrick Rose won a few MVPs. He won MVP, when he was with the Chicago Bulls. That was Derrick Rose's team. And we ain't even know nothing about Jimmy Butler. He wasn't one of those players that was highly recruited out of high school. He wasn't one of those players that came into the NBA with the expectations like a LeBron has, like a Carmelo Anthony has, like a Dwayne Wade. He didn't have those expectations coming out of the NBA. Out of college, rather. Like he had to earn literally everything that he accomplished. Like he had to earn it the hard way. So I think we should include him in that superstar conversation, man.
Yeah. So real quick. So what's next for the Boston Celtics after this?
Oh, I think the Boston Celtics got to go back to the drawing board. You got Kemba Walker still coming back. You got Jason Tatum returning back to the team. You still got Jaylen Brown. So you still have a young core that could win a championship. I think they still are a talented team that has to be reckoned with in the Eastern Conference. When I look at the Eastern Conference next year, Clarence, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, they will be back in the lineup for the Nets. So we know the Nets are going to be, in the top 5 in the East. We know the Miami Heat, they'll be in that conversation for being one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. I think the Boston Celtics are right there with the Miami Heat and the Brooklyn Nets because I think the Bucks are going to fall off next year. I don't think the Bucks are going to have the success that they had this year. I don't see it happen. I just don't. I think Brooklyn is better than the Bucks. I think the Miami Heat are better than the Bucks. I think the Boston Celtics are better than the Bucks. So I think the Boston Celtics, they got to regroup. They got to come back next year, and they have to learn how to execute late in basketball games. They're young. They're a young basketball team. Like, I think that was one of the issues that I had with them in the playoffs this year. They just had games where offensively they just struggled. Like, they couldn't get in the right offensive sets, especially late in these games. They got the talent, Clarence. They got Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. This team is talented. Like, they right there on the cusp. In order for them to get to an NBA Finals and ultimately win a championship, they have to learn how to execute their offense late in these games and get the best quality shots. I think that was the difference in the Eastern Conference Finals. Miami got better shots than the Boston Celtics. Like, I think the Celtics took tougher shots, and sometimes they hit those tough shots. But when you're trying to win a championship, you got to try to get easier opportunities scoring-wise for your team. I think that's what Miami did, and Boston didn't do it. But I think Boston will be just fine. They'll be back next year, and they'll be competing in the Eastern Conference.
I think for Boston, main priority is invest into a big man. I think that's the main priority they need to work on, investing into a big man.
Fair enough. I can understand that. Let's move on, man. We're gonna talk about the NBA Finals, on Wednesday's show. We're gonna talk about the NBA Finals on Wednesday's show because Game 1 of the NBA Finals will be Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Miami Heat, Lakers. And Clarence, I cannot believe I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say this real quick, man. I am sad that the NBA Finals is going to be played in the bubble. Could you imagine? Could you imagine the NBA Finals, Miami, Ocean Drive, LA, Rodale Drive? Like, can you imagine the Staples Center, palm trees everywhere in LA, Miami, beach everywhere? Like, could you imagine the NBA Finals and covering the finals? How fun that would be? Like, for real.
I just think though, Trey, at this moment, and they should just give an exception now. This is the NBA Finals. They should bring in a certain amount of fans in because them fans deserve to watch the NBA Finals. They deserve to be a part of this NBA Finals, and I think they should let like a certain number of fans in because this is the NBA Finals. It's gonna be like a rec center championship league in there because there's no fans in there. So it's gonna have like a different feeling in there, but players gonna be ready to come play ball, and you're gonna be looking forward for Miami to still in the game from the number 1 seed of the LA Lakers. And LA Lakers, you expect them to come in and ball, but I think this series is gonna we got something in the makings.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about Miami and LA if it wasn't in the bubble. That's what I'm thinking about. Like, do you know how lit that would be going from Miami to LA, back to Miami to LA? Like, could you imagine how much? Oh my God! Don't even get me started with how much fun that would be. For reasons, Clarence, not related to basketball. Ain't got nothing to do with basketball. But let's move on and let's talk about the Seattle Seahawks win over the Dallas Cowboys yesterday. The Seattle Seahawks beat the Dallas Cowboys 38-31. Dak Prescott went 37-57, had 472 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Michael Gallup, 6 receptions, 138 receiving yards, 1 touchdown. Seattle Seahawks, Russell Wilson went 27-40, 315 passing yards, 5 touchdowns. DK Metcalf had 4 receptions, 110 receiving yards, 1 touchdown. By the way, real quick, Clarence, before you answer this question, I don't know what the hell DK Metcalf was thinking on that potential touchdown catch when he tried to walk his way into the end zone and the Dallas Cowboy defender, punched the ball out at the last minute and ended up being a touchback. I know Russell Wilson is a God-fearing man, but I guarantee you a part of Russell Wilson was ready to go off on DK Metcalf yesterday after that play. Like, I know he was pissed off because you got to think about it. Russell Wilson on the season, he has 14 touchdowns. That was his 15th touchdown. Think about that. But the question here is, what were your takeaways from this game?
I think my biggest takeaway from this game was how dominant Russell Wilson was in this game. All 4 quarters, how he was, the facilitator of this team. Like, he's being a strong leader for these guys. And it's like he's so poised in the pocket. Like, he's getting more comfortable and better in the pocket. And he believes he can throw any type of pass in this game. And I think, like, him playing at this high level will make the Seattle team a high power offensive team. Or this would be a good football team instead because they got 2 leaders on the defense, Bobby Wagner and Jamal Adams. And I just think, like, Seattle is playing lights out. They're the best team, one of the best teams in the NFC, and they play their whole division, NFC West. I think they can take the NFC West, but that's for another conversation. But Russell Wilson had a crazy day, just throwing another 5 touchdown performance, from him and something that you expect from him. And believe it or not, he's getting the ball out to all his receivers. So it seems like everyone is eating.
Yes, it definitely does. Let me ask you a quick question before I get into my takeaways from this game. Is Russell Wilson your front runner right now for NFL MVP honors?
To me, this is tricky though, because I see it's another person, and behind him is in the run too. It's Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers is playing lights out football, and that's kind of scary because I was talking all that trash before the season, like, oh, Aaron Rodgers got 2 years, he might be done for the year, and right now Aaron Rodgers just proving all the haters wrong. Like, hey, I can still play in this game, I'm still in this league, and I'm one of the best quarterbacks in this league, and to me, I'm just like, wow. But to answer your question, I think Russell Wilson is the front runner of the MVP because he got a good touchdown interception ratio of 14-1, and he's playing with a lot of passion in every game, and he's showing that he's an elite quarterback that we've been stating for a long time. So I think Russell Wilson definitely is the front runner of the MVP.
I agree with you. I think Russell Wilson is the front runner right now for NFL MVP honors. I mean, the job that Russell Wilson has done so far this season, Clarence, he's been remarkable. I mean, I can't say enough about the job that he's done leading this, Seattle Seahawks team. So far in the season, Russell Wilson has 14 touchdowns, 1 interception. He's completing 77% of his passes, and he has close to over 1,000 passing yards on the season. Listen, I'm an Aaron Rodgers fan. I want Aaron Rodgers to win another NFL MVP and add another MVP on his resume, and so he can have 3. But right now, I can't say nothing about what Russell Wilson's doing. I can't go against Russell right now. If I'm not being biased, I'm gonna say Aaron Rodgers. But if I'm being realistic, I'm going to say Russell Wilson. And when I watch Russell Wilson play, Clarence, I actually watch the game and I've become a fan of him. Like, I'll be honest, I'm a Packers fan. I'm a direct Packers fan, and obviously I'm an Aaron Rodgers fan. But like, I am a Russell Wilson fan. I love watching Russell Wilson play. And you can tell Russell Wilson takes the game serious, but he also lets guys be themselves. Like, he doesn't try to change up your personality if you come to the Seattle Seahawks. He just lets you be you. If you notice, all those years with Beast Mode and Marshawn Lynch, he let Marshawn Lynch be him. He never tried to change Marshawn Lynch. He is the leader of the team. He's the quarterback. He always let players be themselves. And that's one thing I like about Russell Wilson, man. Like, I can't say enough about the job that he's done playing the quarterback position at an all-time high level. He is putting up historic numbers right now. But one of my biggest takeaways from the game, besides Russell Wilson being so great, was the Dallas Cowboys secondary is terrible. They're terrible, man. Like, some of these guys on their secondary, Xavier Woods, Trayvon Diggs, Jordan Lewis. I mean, Russell Wilson was picking on some of these Cowboys, cornerbacks. He was picking on them. Like, they literally got exposed. If I'm Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones right now, I'm getting on the phone and I'm calling Earl Thomas right now. Earl Thomas, get to Dallas. We're going to sign you to a contract. We can talk about all the details when you get here. Just get here, because the Cowboys secondary is terrible, Clarence. They are terrible. They had Russell Wilson out there yesterday. Like, he was balling. Like he honestly, it seemed like he was out there playing by himself. Like, it looked like it was like a 7-on-7 drill. Like, they couldn't stop Russell Wilson yesterday. Like, that Dallas Cowboys, they have a great offense. Okay, we know their offense is great. Yesterday, they had 522 total yards, and they had 471 passing yards. We know offensively they have great talent. Like, they got Ezekiel Elliott, one of the best running backs in the NFL. They got Amari Cooper, one of the best receivers in the league. They just drafted CeeDee Lamb, who has a promising future in the NFL. And Michael Gallup yesterday, he had a great game for the Dallas Cowboys. He had over 100 receiving yards, 1 touchdown. They got talent on the offensive side of the ball. Their issue is defense. They can't get stops. Last week, Matty Ice and the Falcons put up 39 points on their defense. So they just have an issue with getting stops, and it's starting to become a reoccurring theme. They can't get stops, Clarence, and that's part of the reason why they are sitting right now at 1-2 on the season.
Yeah, I like you said, they're not getting a lot of stops on their team and on their defenses, and they're giving up a lot of points. And for the Cowboys, I think they just right there, but they just have to execute every play. And believe it or not, one of their star players, Leighton Vander Esch, is out with an injury, so that plays a part as well too. So it's something
Yeah,
that I consider. But for this Cowboys team, they're too talented from the top to bottom, and their secondary, I ain't gonna lie, it is a mess. And I wish they would go out for Earl Thomas, but unfortunately, Earl Thomas is expected to sign with the Houston Texans later on this
I
week.
saw that. I saw that.
So
Yeah.
it's like for the Cowboys, it's the best of luck with them because they're talented from the D line, from the linebackers, and for the secondary. It's just they
Yeah.
need more time to mesh around with. You know what I mean?
And one of the things we talked about coming into this game, can Dak Prescott keep pace with Russell Wilson? He wasn't able to do it, Clarence. I know he had 472 passing yards and 3 touchdowns, but he had 2 interceptions. Those are costly interceptions when you're going up against Russell Wilson, okay?
Yeah.
Like when you're going up against Russell Wilson and he's playing at an elite level right now, you can't give him more opportunities to score because he will take advantage of it. He had 5 touchdowns yesterday. 5 touchdowns. He should have had 6. He should have had 6 yesterday. Like that, I think Dak Prescott played well yesterday, but those 2 interceptions were costly to the Dallas Cowboys' chances of beating the Seattle Seahawks. But, I think they have to make some adjustments and try to improve their defense because they keep getting in these high-scoring affairs. You can't keep expecting Dak Prescott to play well and keep you in these games because I don't even think Dak Prescott is capable of keeping pace with Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, or like a Patrick Mahomes. I just don't think he's capable of doing that. You have to try to get some stops defensively so you can create more opportunities, for your offense and actually lead in a game. Like the Cowboys always trail in these games. Don't you notice that? They always trail.
Yeah.
Like
Always.
they always trailing. Yeah, like they got to try to get some leads in these games, man. But guess what? They in the NFC East. And yesterday, the Philadelphia Eagles, they tied. They had the nerve yesterday. they had the nerve yesterday to tie with your Cincinnati Bengals. And I was talking to my cousin earlier. He was like, man, the Bengals trash. The Bengals trash. I said, this tie is worse for the Eagles than it is for the Bengals. The Bengals don't have the expectations that the Eagles have. The Bengals have Joe Burrow. He's a rookie quarterback. He isn't proven like Carson Wentz is proven. Carson Wentz needed to win that game yesterday, and they couldn't even do it, Clarence. I say all that to say the Dallas Cowboys, although they are only 1-2 on the season and they're not really playing well on the defensive side of the ball because they're in the NFC East, they'll be just fine. All they got to do is win 7 or 8 games, and they're going to be in the playoffs because the NFC East is atrocious. It's a terrible division, bro. It's the worst division in pro football. It's the worst division in pro football. The worst.
2-9-1. That's the record for the NFC East right there. 2-9-1 already.
2-9-1, man. Listen. Wednesday's show, we're going to break down the NBA Finals and give you our predictions. We also will talk about Dan Quinn and that collapse that took place yesterday in the A, because I ain't gonna let Dan Quinn off the hook. Okay.
Yeah.
We had another double-digit lead in the second half, Atlanta Falcons, and somehow, some way, Nick Foles got inserted into the starting lineup, and the Chicago Bears stole, literally, Clarence, they stole a game in Atlanta and improved to 3-0 in the season. I was pissed because I'm a Packers fan. So I want the Bears to lose games. And the Falcons completely choked again.
So let me give you a quick update. The Baltimore Ravens, they just had a 93-yard kick return against the Kansas City Chiefs. They lead in 7-0.
Baltimore's my pick to win tonight. Everybody, remember go follow Wise Guys on Twitter at WiseGuys_H. Also on Facebook, Wise Guys. Make sure to follow Wise Guys on Instagram with These Guys Know Sports. Remember, Clarence rolling with the Kansas City Chiefs tonight. I got the Baltimore Ravens. Wednesday show, we're going to talk about the NBA Finals, give you our predictions for that, give you our NBA Finals MVP. Also, we're going to talk about Dan Quinn and those Falcons. Is it time for Arthur Blank to fire Dan Quinn? All that and much more. And we're also going to give out our Wise Guys game balls for game 2. We were going to talk about our game balls tonight, but we're watching the Ravens and the Chiefs on Monday Night Football. It's too early, Clarence. We got to wait because we don't know what Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson going to do.
Right.
We got to wait. Yeah. But I'll see you on Wednesday night, bro.
I'll see you, bro.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.